For more than a century, whispers have drifted out of one of the most isolated valleys on Earth. Some called it paradise. Others called it impossible. Doctors returned claiming they had found people who rarely suffered the chronic diseases filling hospitals throughout the modern world. Explorers wrote about villagers who climbed mountains with the energy of people half their age. Journalists described men and women whose faces seemed untouched by the years everyone else accepted as inevitable. Then came the stories that captured the world's imagination. People said the Hunza lived to 120. Some insisted they reached 150. Others claimed cancers simply did not exist there. The reports spread across Europe, America, and Asia, until one tiny mountain valley became known as the place where humanity might have discovered the closest thing to a fountain of youth. It sounded too extraordinary to believe. Perhaps it was. But there was one problem. The stories refused to disappear. Generation after generation, new visitors made the same difficult journey into the mountains, hoping to discover whether the greatest health legend of the 20th century was hiding behind walls of stone and ice. Long before television crews arrived, before best-selling books, before health gurus began searching for miracle diets, one man quietly stepped into the valley with no intention of creating a legend. His name was Robert McCarrison. He was a British military physician serving in northern India during the early years of the 20th century. Unlike explorers searching for adventure, McCarrison came for work. His patients were soldiers, villagers, merchants, shepherds, and families scattered across some of the most rugged mountains on Earth. Disease was simply part of his profession, or so he believed. Then something unusual caught his attention. The villages surrounding Hunza kept sending him patients suffering from the illnesses he expected to see. Digestive disorders, infections, weakness, poor nutrition. The pattern was familiar, but among the Hunza, the patterns seemed different. McCarrison would later write that serious chronic diseases appeared strikingly uncommon compared with neighboring populations. He wasn't saying nobody became sick. Children still caught colds. People still suffered injuries. Stomach illnesses, skin infections, and seasonal sicknesses still existed. What fascinated him wasn't the absence of everyday illness. It was the apparent rarity of the long-term degenerative diseases he encountered elsewhere. For nearly 7 years, he observed the people living in and around the valley. The longer he stayed, the more one question refused to leave him. How could communities sharing the same mountains, the same winters, the same rivers, experience such different levels of health? If the answer wasn't hidden inside the mountains, where was it? McCarrison became convinced that the explanation wasn't magic. It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't even the climate, because the Hunza's neighbors lived under the very same sky. The difference, he believed, began long before anyone entered a hospital. It began at the dinner table. That conclusion would follow him for the rest of his life. Years later, after returning to England, he would conduct nutrition experiments that became some of the most discussed of his career. Animals-fed diets rich in refined foods developed numerous health problems. Those fed diets modeled on the traditional foods he had observed among the Hunza remained noticeably healthier during his studies. His findings sparked curiosity far beyond Britain. Soon, other scientists wanted to see the valley for themselves. The legend had begun. And with every new expedition, it only grew larger.